Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman29, and I'm back again to do another installment of Samuel. We're on chapter 3. This is a chapter right before the arc narratives. Chapter 4 starts the arc narratives. So here we have when Samuel, kind of like his theophany, where he ends up being confirmed as a prophet of Israel. And right off the bat, we see in verse 1, in those days the word of the Lord was rare and prophecy was not widespread. Here we're looking at 4 different biblical texts. This is the Septuagint English LXX. This is Brenton's. This is the Douay-Rheims, 1899 English translation of the Vulgate, New Jewish Publication Society, Tanakh, and the La Mesa Aramaic text. And we're just going to compare these 4 so you can see how things pan out in the difference as we go through this. So here, in those days, the word of the Lord was rare and prophecy was not widespread. This was put in to elevate Samuel in this piece of literature, because we know that prophecy was widespread in the day. You had callings, the rulings of the judges, and Samuel here is a judge. However, he takes on new responsibility. He takes on part of the monarch. Not only does he lead as past judges into holy war, he also acts as a branch of the government and a go-between between the divine, the monarchy, and the people, which is something that others have not done. They've just been, for the most part, saviors of Israel. But here, as time progresses, prophets take on more roles, and Samuel is the last of this. So, even Moses can be seen here, and but this is just probably put in by the writer to show how important Samuel was, and this is his calling. One day Eli was asleep in his usual place. His eyes had begun to fail, and he could barely see. This is probably very metaphoric of Eli's issues. We know from previous chapters that his sons were being sacrilegious and taking advantage of people and defaming the sacrifice of the divine, which they will pay dearly for, as we know, because the man of God had come and he gave a prophecy to Eli. Now here also, we see in the end of this that Samuel, when he's called, will also give a prophecy to Eli, and we'll see how Eli takes this, and it's probably not how one would expect, but it's very beautiful. And also another beautiful part in this chapter is where the Lord comes and stands before Samuel. And we'll get to that. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was. So still night. The lamp was put out in the morning, so he's sleeping near the ark. And the Lord called out to Samuel, and he answered, "I'm coming." Or he answered, this is beautiful too, "Here am I." I like this better, because you hear Abraham answering the divine in this way. Samuel runs to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." But he replied, "I didn't call you. Go back to sleep." So he went back and laid down. And again, the Lord called Samuel. Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." But he replied, "I didn't call, my son. Go back to sleep." So here in the Septuagint, it's a little bit longer. And the Lord called again, "Samuel, Samuel." And he went to Eli the second time and said, "Behold, here am I, for thou didst call me." And he said, "I called thee not. Return and go to sleep." This is funny. The author interjects here the reason why he's called 3 times and why Samuel didn't know what the voice of the Lord was. And for those who needed to figure out why Samuel was called more than once, now Samuel had not yet experienced the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. So that's the reason that the author puts that in. The Lord called Samuel again the 3rd time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." And Eli understood that it was the Lord calling the boy. This is beautiful because he doesn't get the first 2 times. Eli, if he was sharp, it just goes to show how lax and maybe older he was, or as blind he was, playing on the previous verses. It takes him 3 times to get what's going on. Eli said to Samuel. Here it's even maybe even implied that he's almost forgotten the voice of the divine, and it takes him 3 times. For the most part, it shouldn't take 3 times. And Eli said to Samuel, "Go lie down. If you are called again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" And Samuel went to his place and lay down. The Lord came and stood there. That's beautiful. The Lord came and stood there. Maybe if we go up to the scriptures, we'll go to 1 Samuel 3:10. I just want to point out that it was the Lord that stood there. (3:10) here in the Hebrew. Here it is, Adonai. So it wasn't a messenger. It wasn't an angel. It was the divine, which is very beautiful. And Samuel has this theophany of seeing the divine, and he gets his message straight from the divine, just like Moses on the mountain. And Samuel says, he called as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel answered, "Speak, for your servant is listening." In this text here, he forgets to say Lord. He's instructed to say, "Speak, Lord," but he forgets. All 3 of these do not have Lord. The Aramaic tries to put it back in, and Samuel said, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant hears." Now, whether the editor in all 3 of these texts, both the Vulgate, Septuagint, and the Masoretics, forgot it, to restore it again in the Aramaic text by La Mesa. But it's just humorous that maybe in his excitement or whatnot, he forgets. We're not going to speculate too much. The Lord said to Samuel, "I am going to do in Israel such a thing that both ears of anyone who hears will tingle." Now, that's pretty interesting because you see, I believe there's a text in 2 Kings where it talks of the same. See if I can find that verse here. We'll look it up real quick. That would be 2 Kings 21:12, and also in Jeremiah 19:3. So he gives prophecy against the house of Israel, and again he reiterates what he will do. And what's interesting here is where Torah places emphasis on forgiveness. Here is an iniquity that will not be atoned for with incense or sacrifices, because the sacrilegious practices that the sons of Eli were committing. Here, the divine says they will not be forgiven. And New Testament, you get hints of the sin that can't be forgiven is blasphemy against the Holy Ghost. But here in Old Testament literature, here is probably one of the few times where the divine decides that no atonement will be given for such things. So the author here places grave consequences on anybody who um, defames the sacrifice or the rituals, and stresses the importance of doing it correctly. As before, we've seen the issues that the writer talked about that the sons committed. Samuel slept till morning, then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord. So he still performs his duty, even though he got this big revelation the night before. Samuel was afraid to report the vision to Eli. This is beautiful here. But Eli summoned Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son." And he answered, "Here." Or in the other text it says, "Here am I." And Eli asked, "What did he say to you? Keep nothing from me. Thus and more may God do to you if you keep from me a single word of all that he said to you." So here Eli kind of threatens him in some way. And Samuel told him everything, withholding nothing from him. Eli said, "He is the Lord." This is beautiful. He accepts this. He accepts what's going to happen. Even in today, you see some Jewish blessings allude to this. Blessings that you would say during terrible times and in good times. He is the Lord, and he will do what he deems right. You get the same kind of idea in Job, where he's in the midst of his troubles, and he ends up quoting almost the same thing. Samuel grew up, and the Lord was with him, and he did not leave any of Samuel's predictions unfulfilled. This is the which talked about in Deuteronomy. The true signs of a true prophet: if what he sees comes to pass, and he's a true prophet. And if he witnesses the divine or the heavenly council, he is a true prophet. You get ideas of that in both Isaiah and Jeremiah also later on. All Israel to Dan from Bathsheba knew that Samuel was trustworthy as a prophet of the Lord because of all those things in the previous verses. He meets the qualifications. And the Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh with the word of the Lord. Here the Alex X puts in the first part of the next verse, chapter 4, but the Masoretic text does not. And Eli was very old, and his sons kept advancing in wickedness, and their way was evil before the Lord. So now, in the next chapter, chapter 4, we get into the verse narratives and the arc narratives, and then after that, we're into the Saul cycle. So, in the next, we're going to spend a little time talking about the Sea Peoples and the Philistines captured the ark. We're going to look at some ancient Near Eastern texts that match that of sending the ark back when atrocities strike a nation and you have the deity among you. We will see the competition between Dagon and Yahweh and what the writer thought of that, and the graven images that are put in the ark by the Philistines and sent back. We're going to even look at some biblical archaeology review on what that possibly was and some different ideas on who the Philistines were, and we're going to talk about that time period a little bit. So hang in there and take care, and thanks for watching. Sorry this dragged on for so long, but this is a really beautiful text here, the calling of Samuel. So remember, friends, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.